I can embrace that. I grew up religious and did a workshop for film, and I was in the College of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and met a girl.
Okay.
I dated this girl for 5 years
Okay.
and had a 3-year breakup with her. Now, never in that time did I ever think, oh, I was raised religious, this is against me. In the back of my head, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't tell grandma because, she's old. Let her have her life.
Okay.
I allowed myself to be present in each moment, and that was like, to date, one of the most difficult relationships I've had because I allowed myself to be more vulnerable. So.
And also you put yourself in a uniquely
Like,
a
am I
uniquely
being
different
rebellious
situation that
against
you're
my
not used to.
grandma? Yeah.
No, for real. Because you said like, okay, I didn't grow up in that environment, so obviously that's not the norm for
Yeah.
you, right? So you're going out here, you're like, I'm gonna be open to the experience, but then there's like, I almost have no frame of reference of like how that's supposed to work.
Yeah,
And I'm also
nothing.
trying to be mindful of my family, and I don't really want them to be involved.
And at that point, I hadn't had really a good model for, healthy relationship.
Oh wait, see, you're hitting a buzzword now.
I mean, I feel like whereas everybody wants to be so independently unique, people also don't want to be different.
Oh yeah, we know
Right.
that. I always get that expression wrong. The nail that sticks out is the one that gets hammered. However that thing goes.
Story of my life.
If you stick out, more than likely people notice it. Sometimes they shame you. Sometimes they make you feel bad about being you. I mean, I'm not going to go on a tangent because we could put almost anything in that example. The point is, we want to usually be a part of that community, whatever that may look like for us. But there also is an element of trying to feel comfortable in your own skin, and you may want to push the boundaries a little bit. That may not be quote unquote traditional.
Yes.
So how do we navigate that? Or how do we see ourselves maybe in those spaces where you might feel like I'm not supposed to be that way? Again, going back to kind of like tradition.
I can embrace that. I grew up religious and did a workshop for film, and I was in the College of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and met a girl.
Okay.
I dated this girl for 5 years
Okay.
and had a 3-year breakup with her. Now, never in that time did I ever think, oh, I was raised religious, this is against me. In the back of my head, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't tell grandma because, she's old. Let her have her life the
Okay.
way she needs it. But like, I was always open to experiencing something that I didn't understand.
Okay.
And I've never, up until that point, ever thought about a woman. So I'm like, maybe that was like upbringing. I don't really know, but
Could have been.
it just wasn't like, whereas I feel like my ex and her side of she was in California, all of her friends, they were all making out with each other like in middle school. So I'm like,
So there was maybe a little bit more openness and experimentation on that side.
yeah. So like, I allowed myself to be present in each moment, and that was like, to date, one of the most difficult relationships I've had because I allowed myself to be more vulnerable. So.
And also you put yourself in a uniquely
Like,
a
am I
uniquely
being
different
rebellious
situation that
against
you're
my
not used
grandma?
to.
Yeah.
No, for real. Because you said like, okay, I didn't grow up in that environment, so obviously that's not the norm for
Yeah.
you, right? So you're going out here, you're like, I'm gonna be open to the experience, but then there's like, I almost have no frame of reference of like how that's supposed to work.
Yeah,
And I'm also
nothing.
trying to be mindful of my family, and I don't really want them to be involved.
And at that point, I hadn't had really a good model for healthy relationship.
Oh wait, see, you're hitting a buzzword now. Models, right? So then we talk about, let me circle back for those that may not have caught that. So we talked in the beginning about how you are a product of young parents. Why does that matter? Why am I even trying to draw a point there? Because usually what happens is, and to reiterate, there's no book that teaches you how to parent, right? So I don't hold parents to like these unrealistic standards because they're always going to make mistakes. We, including myself, will make mistakes. But
That's how we grow.
when you're younger, you're inherently going to make more mistakes. Like, number one, you're more impulsive, your frontal lobe, your decision-making center of your brain is not even fully formed.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff you're just going to do, right? It's just a part of the process. But if I have a little one, and I have to try to figure out how to enforce these boundaries and these rules while also creating that warm, inviting space, that's going to be really hard when I am still trying to grow and to develop myself, right? Mm-hmm. So I have those challenges, put that on the one side. Then you talked about, okay, I didn't have the best model, right? Why is it helpful, maybe, to have slightly older parents? And by old, I don't mean like they got to be 40 or 50. It can be in their 30s or so. Mm-hmm. Because they can demonstrate that relationship.
20s. Yeah.
They can demonstrate what that looks like. Like I talk about that so much. If we're parents, right, and we have a daughter, the daughter's looking at the way that we interact and saying, hey, look at how your dad treats your mom. And if she's heterosexual, right, this is how a man should treat you.
Yeah.
And then the way you treat me, she's seeing that's how I should honor my spouse.
Absolutely.
Right? And we're demonstrating that those may be things that we say and what we don't say. Absolutely. Works. Absolutely. And it works well that way. I'm not saying it's the only way, but it works well in that sort of traditional sense. But when you don't have that, it can make it difficult. Let me give you a personal example as to how also I can agree with what you've gone through. I grew up with primarily just my dad and my older sister because my mom passed away when I was very young. So that element of being able to be more expressive and more vulnerable that women usually bring to the table, that mothers do, I didn't have. I got an abundance of the be strong, be structured, be disciplined, be orderly, right? Be a good provider for yourself. I got an abundance of that. Not really any of the warm, fuzzy stuff that especially helps you when you're trying to develop real relationships with women, right? That's just a byproduct of my circumstance. We all have different circumstances. We don't pick those, right?
Yeah.
But it's more just trying to understand how we may interact and engage with some of these challenges that we end up dealing with based on our starting point. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So to me, like, that's very comparable to what you were just describing. Like, you got young parents. There's a lot you're not going to probably learn, you know?
I mean, they didn't even get to go through their early 20s where you kind of like, I feel like I didn't really figure out who I was until like after that breakup.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, that's when like the real rebellion came, where I didn't even want to be myself. To where I'm like, I completely dismantled who I was as a human, which is when I like actually conquered my fear of heights, was after that breakup on 420 in California.
What did you do?
I went for a hike and I climbed. I was in Thousand Oaks and Wildwood, and I climbed to where this little tiny baby waterfall, maybe 30 feet, and I jumped off. There's like a little pool, and it felt like I was falling for like 5 years. And like in that like 5 seconds that it took to fall, 5 years in my perspective,
sure,
I realized that there's no way I can control, even if I did fall, like, and then it made me contemplate death, where I'm just like, well, if this is the last time I am alive and I do die, like on this jump, like what can I look back on? At that point, I had been in love. I had worked in media. I had conquered most of the dreams that I had at that point. Moved to another state by myself. Like, I mean, I went into debt. Like, it's a whole
just
thing.
Exploring all these things.
Exploring all the things. And then I was never scared of heights again and started like bouldering and like rock climbing.
See, that's an example of like literally tackling your challenges head on.
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing I'm afraid of, and I'm about to run head first at it.
Yeah.
Right. See, what I thought you was gonna say was what I did. I thought you were gonna say you went skydiving, because that's what I did.
I want to go so bad.
It's really fun.
Oh.
It's really fun. And you fall a bit longer, so you can really contemplate life. 'Cause you're falling for a good minute. So. Keep that on your to-do list if you like doing that. I want to go back for a second, because you brought up another good point talking about your relationships, right? So before I jump into that, exactly, how would you say that you, at least at this moment, how would you say that you identify from a romantic standpoint in terms of interest?
I guess for all the people who like to have
some
boxes,
sort of frame of reference with like a label.
Some frame of reference. I am in a heterosexual relationship right now.
Okay.
Which is, amazing. Like, I'm very grateful that I am with somebody who is a complete gentleman, but likes to have fun and do all the things. Like, so there was a lot of time in between my ex-girlfriend and this that it was just like, I was a horrible human being, I think, but not really.
Maybe a growing period.
A huge growing period.
That's fair. And listen, we all go through it, so that's fair. Let me ask you, just so I can kind of wrap my head around the time period we're talking about. So, like, roughly about how much time between end of relationship with your ex-partner and then this one?
That was around 2000. It's about 10 years.
Okay, so that's a lot of growth. So you had a decade of growth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's solid. That's solid. Okay.
Yeah, I dated people here and there, and I just didn't really hold a lot of respect for relationships.
Following the end of the last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think really just because I really loved the media, and I left my career to be in that relationship. So like that I think messed with me more than breaking up actually did. Like the actual relationship, but me losing part, or in that perspective, what I thought was part of myself, because at that point I identified as a businesswoman who did media.
Let me ask you a quick question on that concept. Do you feel like when, as a part of that growing period and when you left, was there a period of resentment?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I went into debt. I had a 780 credit score, and like by 18, and by the time I was 25, I was like this hippie traveling the country.
Wait, was that exclusive for that partner, for that relationship? That's why you did all that?
No, I mean, it was just because, I mean, that's just...
Or that was just you living life, just kind of exploring?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're asking about me moving to California, yeah, that was for the relationship.
Okay.
Okay. Essentially, she didn't believe I could just be like with a woman. So that was my challenge, because I like women and men. I like people. I like energy. I don't know. I can't even say I hook up with a lot of women.
But
so
that was that also the only one that you have had, like, significant romantic relationship that you've had?
Yes.
With a woman?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's only
you said 5 years. So that's obviously a big chunk of time.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of time. Lots of exploration, lots of different things. We were like 18 to 24-ish.
Okay. Okay. No, and I think that that's important, especially for us listening, because again, some people are gonna identify with that, right? Like, how does one determine
even when we were
what
together,
they like?
we didn't say we were lesbians or anything. We just never. We're Jasmine and Janine.
You just connected, and then it somehow
this is what we're doing now.
It built from there.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. There was like never all of this.
See, I always find
at the most we were engaged, and that was the most.
I always find that stuff so interesting, because this is the very nuanced discussions that I think we need to have now, especially, again, going back to the labels, right? When I kind of asked about it, because we don't want to necessarily subscribe to stuff right now.
Yeah.
But we kind of, at least to me, I feel like we use it just to kind of get a starting point of like, what do you even are interested in? What do you pursue? Who do you allow to pursue you?
Yeah.
Right.